Hi, this is Leithia from Farmview Creators. Today we're going to work on the Christmas Mini quilt blocks from the Rust Cover Cottage by Christina. We're going to use some of our tissue paper, we're going to use some Echo Park stencils, and of course we're going to use our Paint Couture products. So I am just going in all of the 4 minis, it is a set of 4, and just numbering my pieces and the backboard and kind of putting those pieces to the side based on what they are. And now I'm going to go in with my Van Dyke Brown antiquing gel and giving all of the backboard pieces 1 coat of stain. 2 of them, the ones that have the picture images, the candle and the wreath, I am going to go on with my crackle medium. But first, while that's all drying and setting up and everything, I am placing my pieces on my sticky board, and I am making sure that I place them with the grain going in the same direction for all the pieces. It just makes it easier when I go to town painting. I'm going in with Farmhouse Linen. This is a mineral acrylic paint. It's a very soft off-white, and it's one of my faves. I'm actually getting low on it because I use it a lot. Just giving a thin coat first, and then when I go back on the second coat, I will go heavier with that one. But thin coats first, and you really try not to glop it on there. You don't want it on the sides. I did wrap up my paintbrush because I'm going to go back to it several times. So when you use Folk Art crackling medium, you have to make sure that you shake it up a lot, like till your arm hurts, and then shake it with the other arm. I am going heavy-handed on this because I want large crackles. The thinner you have it, the smaller your crackle, the thicker, the larger the crackle. So I gave my Farmhouse Linen a good dry, and I'm going to go in and do that thicker coat, making sure that I don't have a lot of excess around the edges because you do want your pieces to fit together nicely after they dry and when you're putting it together. And now I'm going to put the pieces for the candle, and I'm going to go in with Paint Couture's Crust. This is a texture, and I like to use my fingers. I feel like I have more control when I use my fingers. It's super easy to use. I could have spread it on evenly, and it still would have had like that sandy look to it, but I wanted it to kind of have a more puckered look. But I did use a very, very thin layer. You can go thick, you can go thin. It's your preference. But for this, I wanted that thin layer. And then I'm going to let that dry before I paint it. I'm going to go in with my candle and use Cozy Beige. And again, thin coat first, then thicker coat later. And then for the flame, I'm using Spanish Sunrise. These are both mineral acrylics from Paint Couture. Now I am putting on the pieces of the 4-corner flower. This you could paint up like a poinsettia or a Christmas cactus or an amaryllis. I'm kind of going for that Christmas cactus look. So I put the autumn sage on the centerpiece, and now I'm going to go in with my barn door. And the barn door is a chalk style paint, so it's a little thinner. It is more matte. It's great for distressing, and if I were going to like sand distress, I would have only put 2 coats on there, but because that's not my plan, I did use 3 coats on that red. The autumn sage is a mineral acrylic too, so I'm going in and getting that second layer on the candle pieces, and then on that centerpiece with that autumn sage, and then a second coat on the barn door. And just again, always painting with the grain and making sure that I don't have lots of excess paint glopped up on the outside edges. I'm gonna give that a good dry. I'm really drying that crust as well, and then going in with that third coat on the red. It just really deepens that color. Now I'm going to go in with Pitchblack. This is another mineral acrylic, and I'm going to use a pouncer and pounce it onto that crust. You don't want to drag because it will crumble your crust off. And I'm just really going for full coverage. I did not want any white to show, so I'm going around all the edges And then I'm trying to decide which stencils I want to use for my pieces. I knew I wanted to stencil. I knew I wanted to decoupage. Just wasn't sure what I wanted to do with each design. So I decided I would go in with this Christmas star with vintage lace. That's the name of the color, vintage lace. And it is a luxe metallic, and it is beautiful. It's very, very subtle, so you can't see it until, you know, the light hits it. Then I'm going in with another luxe metallic called Amazon and my fan brush, and I dabbed off on the side, and then I just gently stroked it across that green. Now I'm going to place all of my flower pieces together, and I'm going to go in with Garnet, and I'm going to make sure that I dab off any, all the excess of the Garnet paint, because you want just a little on your brush, and you can use a swirling motion or a pouncing motion and just get it in there. The less paint you have on your brush, you might have to go over something a couple of times, but it's not going to seep under your stencil. It's going to be nice and crisp with your design. Sometimes I go a little heavy-handed, and it's okay. It's handmade, but if you want that crisp look, you want less paint on your brushes. I did use Essential Stencils brushes there, and you can see how beautiful that is, and I love the shine. I did do a second coat with that pitch black, just making sure I had that full coverage. On this design, I was not sure what I wanted to do. Originally, I wanted to decoupage everything on this one, and then I had an idea of how I wanted to place the pieces in my frame that will hold all four, and I didn't want like 3 pieces to have tons of decoupage and 1 not to. So I changed my mind. So I put just the green and beige check on the center of that one, and then on the candle I am using the beige with the writing, and I'm using Paint Couture's matte decoupage medium. I brushed it on thinly onto the piece, put the tissue paper on, put it aside to dry, and then while it sets up, we're moving on to the next pieces. Using the black check for the wreath, I just wanted to go non-traditional, and I was kind of leaning a lot towards neutrals with everything but the flower, actually. And I'm placing these pieces so that they are making the shape of the wreath the way that it should be. That way all my check will match up. So again, just a thin layer, just making sure I get a nice coat across all of the pieces, and then placing them how they will be arranged. I'm going to set that aside to dry, just making sure it's all nicely adhered. I don't mind wrinkles. And all of this tissue paper was wrapped around my kits when they were packaged by Christina and sent out. They always smell so yummy, and she has the most gorgeous tissue paper, so I save all of it because you never know when you want to use it. And this, I went with that Cozy Beige again, and I'm using the Christmas Floral stencil from Echo Park. All of these are 6x6 stencils. And then I'm going to go in with just a tiny touch of that vintage lace again, just to give it a little hint. I wanted it to be very, very subtle, and it is. I love that two-tone look. Again, sticking with the neutrals a lot for this. And now I am going to sand my pieces back. I am using a micro sander and my Gator hand sander. I went back and forth between the two. The hand sander from Gator was going a little quicker, but the micro sander was working better with some of those tiny nooks and crannies. So I have like this clicker pin with a sharp point edge that I used to kind of separate those pieces. It did tear a little bit. I feel like I needed more tissue paper and to have my pieces a little farther apart, but I'm still learning how to decoupage because it's fairly new to me. And then just sanding off all around the edges. Then I'm going to kind of blow the dust off of those pieces, and I will put another layer of the Paint Couture decoupage medium on top of all the pieces, making sure that I get those edges so that they don't lift up later. And there was one place where I kind of smoothed back where I'd kind of, I guess, tore it a little bit, but it just kind of wrinkled up on me. So I just smoothed that back. There were a couple of places where you could see the Farmhouse linen, but I wasn't really worried about that because I knew that I was going to distress it with my dark wax later, and that would take care of that. I did put the Farmhouse linen on the back because I wanted it to brighten up. If you go in and you paint it, the wood piece is a darker shade, you're going to darken up that tissue paper. So it's just whatever look you're going for, you can enhance it with how you paint those pieces. So now I'm going in with my Debi's DIY wax while I let those pieces set aside and dry, and I'm going to go ahead and distress all of the pieces that are just painted. And I'm using my larger brush that I use this. It's just a stenciling brush, a cheap one. I think it was like a 4-pack for $6 off of Amazon. And I have dedicated it to wax. It stays in a plastic bag so that it doesn't dry out. And I have 2 different sizes that I use. And as you use it, the bristles will wear away, so you have to replace it every once in a while. But I've been using these for about 2 years. So now I'm going to go in with my favorite top coat, which is Dead Flat from Paint Couture. Takes out all the shine, except on those Luxe Metallics. You will still have that shine. And I just kind of used the bristles of my brush to pounce on that crust. Made sure that my crackle medium was really dry, went back in with that same paintbrush I've been using with the Farmhouse linen and gave it a fairly heavy coat. I feel like the crackle does better when you use a heavier coat. You do need to try to only stroke over a spot one time. The more you brush over it, the less crackle you're going to get. I do like to force dry it a little bit because I feel like that makes the crackles larger, but with my heat gun, it's really, really hot. So I use the low setting and I don't force dry it for very long. If I do, I heat it up for a minute and then I let it cool and then I'll heat it up again. So kind of going in there a couple of times. And then I did not want to distress it until it had cooled off completely. So that's why I kind of waited there. But I am distressing all of the backboards and all the decoupage pieces. Going to go in on all of them with my Dead Flat. And then I'm going to make sure that that is really dry before I actually assemble my pieces. Just had a little bit of goopy on that top edge of the crackle. The Dead Flat on the decoupage pieces also helps to make sure that they are adhered. And now it's time for assembly. I love this part. This is where I just lay out all my pieces. I am making sure that I am happy with how it looks before I actually glue anything down, because it's not too late to change anything. You can always sand off that decoupage. You can sand off the stencils on the paint. You know, it's all redoable, you know? So I am checking my pieces, making sure I have them in the correct spot because that's how I laid them out to stencil. That's how they need to go. That's exactly where they fit perfectly. So I am getting all those pieces together. I had a little extra crust that I needed to scratch off the top of that base for the light, the candle, sorry. And now I am making sure I make sure to write my numbers justified or, you know, oriented the way the piece needs to go. So I didn't want my number or letter to be upside down because that's not how it should be. So that's how, I love that one. It's so cute. That's how I made sure to put the pieces on there. I'm using art glitter glue. It's my favorite. It goes on really easily. It's got a super thin tip in that little tiny bottle. I need to refill it. It dries clear. Does not make your fingers sticky, and it gives really good adhesion. And I love that I can buy an 8-ounce bottle, refill bottle, and fill up my little one. So I feel like that uses less plastic. And I try not to make more waste than I need to. So I'm getting that wreath together. I put the 2 other pieces to the side because I'm finished with those. But the candle and the wreath, I am going to add embellishments. I had all the things that I wanted to do. Again, wasn't quite sure what I wanted to use. So I have some berry garland, some beautiful beige lace, and then I have some Sweet Annie that has been dried. I got this from Christina. And I'm just kind of arranging it toward the front, and I'm just going to do a little loop with my lace, getting that situated and how I want it. And then I'm going to go in and just put a staple. I wasn't sure glue would hold the Sweet Annie the way I wanted it, so I just decided to put a staple in there. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I decided not to staple right away because I wanted to put some of that berry garland in, and I kind of played around with it, deciding how I wanted it to go, and then I decided to clip off little pieces and just kind of lay it behind my bow. And I didn't actually tie the bow because it was getting kind of bulky and messy when I tried to. So I just kind of laid it like a bow would be and then held that on, and again put a little staple, made sure it was holding everything, and I love how they turned out. I think they are adorable, and I hope you like them too. So I didn't want my two like pictures to be side by side, so I switched them up there, and here they are individually. And then I have them in my frame. So that's my frame that holds 4. And then there's one of my ones that hold 3. And I kind of alternated that centerpiece. And I hope you loved them. Let me know which one was your favorite. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Bye.